putting this together. He was working on this even still till last night, which, you know, I didn't mean to put you into that.
That's all right.
When I called him and said, how about you come and talk about Camp Denison? I said, you probably have a few pictures. Well, clearly he has a few pictures.
Yeah.
There's a lot, you know, there's a lot that's happened there over the years that would not have happened if it weren't for you and the group of Bobs.
Yeah, actually,
the
Bob
Bobs.
Morehouse is the guy.
Yeah. But
Most
so I'm so glad you could come. This was our annual Father's Day men's breakfast, hence the cookies. Because we'll be we won't have breakfast in July, but we'll have, you know, men's breakfast again will be on Thursday, August 2nd, first Thursday, and it will be Reverend Boylan who's going to come and speak. So that'll be good. We had to get on his schedule like 3-4 months ago because now that he's somewhat retired, he's been busy, which has been a good thing. But so really glad to have all of you here to, you know, and to celebrate Father's Day, and whether or not your dads, you've been important in people's lives, and we just want to be able to honor that and thank you for everything that you do. And thank you, Jim. This is very, very nice of you to put all this together. And it's, you know, I've been out a couple of different times, and it's a fabulous facility, and it's more fabulous because of all the volunteer effort that is involved. But thank you. So we'll let you go right to it. I see some of the cookies have already been eaten. But, okay, so yeah, just keep on the cookies.
Oh yeah, don't take Tom's cookie.
But I think we finally have solved all of our technical issues.
I think so.
We can.
All right,
Well,
ready?
turn down the lights.
Ready,
What do
Charlie?
you think? Should we turn down the lights? How's that? That make it even sharper? Okay.
Okay. Just a quick background on Denison. It's actually an outgrowth of a group of people in Boston that started looking for ways to get underprivileged kids in the city, you know, out of where they are and get them some different experiences. And in the 1930s, in the early 30s, they leased the land where Camp Denison is right now. And I think what they did is they just came up every day. As you can see, it was a day camp, and if anybody stayed over, they had tents rather than buildings and that sort of thing. But it must have been pretty bad coming up Route 1. I mean, 95 wasn't there in 1930. So they had to drive all the way up Route 1. So that's probably when they decided to buy that land and put up the buildings. And the lodge that I'll show you in a while is I think the first building that was put up. And that was built in the 1935, 37. And it was a TID. One of the TIDs built it. He was a contractor or a carpenter, I guess. And it was, Camp Denison was regularly in use. You know, through the 40s, George used to go swimming down there. How about Gary? Did you go down there? You never went down there?
Well, yeah, I'm a canoe, but
Not swimming?
Oh, no. Yeah, but I couldn't move over from the other road.
Oh, is that right? Oh, okay. But we think probably after the 80s, the property got transferred to a group called Federated Neighborhood Houses of Dorchester or something like that. And I don't think they had the money to keep it up. And there was a lot of vandalism and that sort of thing. So Bob Morehouse went to the town meeting in the 1997 spring town meeting and got the town to buy it. And we split it with the Department of Conservation, the State Department of Conservation. And we each paid, as I recall, $220,000. The whole thing cost $440,000. And the original purchase was 36 acres. We since bought some land from Larry Ogden, and there's now 44 acres at Denison. And the town actually bought it in 1998, yeah. And Camp Denison is conservation land, and it's controlled by the Conservation Commission. And the committee, the Camp Denison committee, that is responsible for the day-to-day operation, there's a subcommittee of the Conservation Commission. So that's it. Anybody? Comments? Questions? Go ahead, Doug.
How much did they pay for the camp? Do you know?
These guys? No clue.
I mean, when Bob
When Bob bought
How
it?
much the town, yeah, how much did the town pay?
220,000.
20?
Yeah. And the state put up 220. The whole thing was 440.
All right.
Back in the 50s, the fire department used to have their meals down there.
Really?
They have get-togethers.
In the building, you mean? They use that big building?
Denison, right?
Wow. Well, there were still people using it as a camp then, yeah. So they just let them use it. Oh, I didn't know that. So these are the buildings that we have. And that's obviously the biggest and the first building. That little slope on the right is, we have a camp manager that lives there. He has a job. It's not his full-time job. He has a job. But he lives there, and that's where he stays, in that apartment. The bottom left is what we call Smokey's Den. It's a smaller space. It's heated. People use it in the winter for birthday parties. And upstairs is the big main room. We have weddings in that thing, and people have baby showers, family parties, and stuff like that. In fact,
Free or rented?
no, it's rented. That's how we get the money to fix it. The money goes into what's called a revolving fund, and we spend the money out of that. There's no tax money. There's no tax money, well, except for, we just got some money from community preservation to replace the roof. And that is tax money. Everybody pays a limited amount of money on the tax bill to go into CPC, and that's where we got that money. So that is the main building. And what I want to get to after the building is to kind of go through all of the problems that they had once that place hadn't been used for such a long time, and some of the things that they had to do to fix it. That's what we call the Nature Center. That's really a nice little building. People rent that as well. There's a screened porch on the right. They just fixed that a couple of years ago. And inside, it's been all renovated. When we first looked at it, you couldn't even walk into it. The floor was so spongy. And Bob tells me when they first came here in like 1998, it was filled with rubbish, old mattresses. And it may have been people living in it, squatting in it, I don't know. And this is a gazebo that looks out over the pond. Same thing with that. That was one of those, do we tear it down, do we fix it? And ended up spending, a year or so on Tuesdays, shoring up the floor and redoing the roof and doing all that kind of stuff on that. And this is the other cabin area. That's the bigger of them. That cabin, we call that the Girl Scout cabin because the Girl Scouts raise money in honor of the woman that was killed on the 9/11. She was on one of the planes that crashed into the towers.
Yeah.
Carol Fleiser was her name. So they sort of gave Denison money in honor of Carol Fleiser. And I think there's a plaque on the building, Bob, isn't there? I think there is. But that's another place that people rent, overnight renting. And this is our pride and joy. We just finished that bathroom. We got another money from the CPC. And the guys, that building was, I don't think there's much left of the original building. And they fixed it, put the shell in there, and we went out and got a contract from a plumber, and the guys did all the framing on the inside. In fact, they did everything and we finished it about a year ago. They did everything but the plumbing, the electrical, and we had a guy come in and put a floor down because that requires kind of a skill that nobody had. But all of the other stuff, all the volunteers did. And that is a really nice bathroom. You can come down and use it sometime. And that's what the other cabins. So those are the other cabins. They're kind of rustic. We rent those. There's 4 of them. And I think this year they're going to be in the process of upgrading all of those. Uh-oh. I think I got a problem. Charlie,
New addition?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It popped out of that. It popped out of that file. Maybe if I go back, there it is. I must have touched something. It won't,
It's frozen.
yeah, it's frozen on that one.
Is that the last one?
Ah,
You may have to restart the power.
Oh, did it stay?
all right. This is just some of the views down there. After Bob Morehouse died, Georgetown Building Supply gave us these big granite blocks and a setup for a fire pit. So now there's a fire pit out down there overlooking the pond. And there are 4, I think, granite blocks around that. And you sit on them, you use them for seats. It's really kind of nice. And then we have a whole bunch of benches. People use that all the time. People that rent it or go camping down there, they use that fire pit all the time. And this is the other thing. We have a dock now, so people can get on, you want to fish. We have a dock you can fish on. Plus you can put a boat, you know, we don't, anybody wants to get on here, it's public property. If you want to get on and put a boat in there and fish, you can do that. You know, there's a landing to the left of where that dock is. So this is what the place was look like, and Bob can help me because I know he was there. There was no water in that main building. The way they got water, I understand, is they ran a hose out to the pond, and they pulled the water out of the pond. There was a lot of vandalism. I said that. Nature Center was just filled with trash. There was a lot of windows broken, I think, in the lodge, weren't there? A lot of windows broken everywhere. Just in general, bad repair. But the interesting thing is, part of that, where that main lodge is in Boxford. And Boxford owned, that land was in Boxford. So there's no town water in Boxford, so that was a problem. There was electric service, but it wasn't anything that you could, build, take care of a big building with. And no telephone, and most of all, they had no money. Because the deal with this thing was, there was never gonna be a budget for it. The money had to be raised either by people doing fundraising or starting to rent the place.
Was Boxwood still on?
No, I'm gonna get to that, Charlie.
Okay.
So, the first thing that happened was they went to Boxford and said, we want to put town water in that building, and they said no, because they were afraid if they let us do it, then other people were gonna say, well, you let CampDenison do it. So Bob somehow got to Boxford, and they swapped the land. They actually had to go to the legislature, and Boxford gave us that land, and we gave them land in Georgetown. I think that's at the head where Penbrook goes out of the pond. It's somewhere around there. And it took like a year and a half because the legislature had to vote on it. And then when they did, I wasn't there at the time, they had to put those big granite markers. So what they did is they rolled out on the ice and they stood that granite marker on the ice, and when the ice melted, it went down, and it went down straight. And the thing is still there. We all thought it was gonna tip over. We thought Bob was
That
crazy.
is the most amazing thing I ever.
But that thing went down straight,
He says,
yeah.
Put it
yeah.
right there. I said,
Yeah.
on the ice melt, Bob.
It's gonna tip over.
Ball. He said, put it there, put cables here. Sure enough, spring came and went straight down. Can't get over that.
So yeah, I mean, like they had to put a membrane on that manager's apartment because that was leaking. And Bob said in the middle of the building, there was a column, wasn't it? It was rotten, and the roof was starting to sag, and they had to jack it up and replace the column. They had to run all of the water lines and electric lines, and then just started working on the buildings. I know I went down there, we were working on the manager's apartment. I guess it was really not in particularly good shape. But they cleaned it out, and we wallboarded it. And somebody put electrical service in, and then we moved on to the outside bathroom, and then to the gazebo, and then to the nature center. Like I said, the nature center you couldn't even walk in.
I remember, it's not just the windows that were broken, but the frames were gone. So it was like January, it's cold as hell, where do you work? So I said, let's go down that Knights of Columbus building. So I didn't talk to anybody. I had the key. We went down there, and it was glass, broken frames all over the place, and did I get help? The hell do you think this is, a workshop? But we had no place.
Because it wasn't heated, yeah.
It wasn't heated.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was a mess.
So that's
Anyone
what.
went out there, took the trail over the hill, along the railroad track, down the other side. You know where the trail is, up over that hill, where the railroad went?
Yeah, I know where the railroad is.
And it's a trail that goes up, along by the pond,
Okay.
and it goes up over that hill,
Yeah.
right to the top, and it comes down over the other road.
Oh,
Nobody's ever now.
I know. No. Gary has. And finally, this is the kind of stuff, I don't know, if you've never been down to Denison, I mean, you can go down there. Obviously, if you rent the buildings or you go camping, you have to pay rent. But you can go down there and picnic, you can just walk on the trails. You can put a boat in the water, you can fish off the dock. There's actually horseshoes down there. There's a couple of horseshoe things, and shuffleboard, there's a shuffleboard court. And we're always looking for volunteers. So if anybody wants to come down and do work, when they're down there on a Tuesday, Stu goes down, feel free.
Pay is good.
Pay is great,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's it. Does anybody have any
Do
questions?
you want to put a price on any of this stuff, or?
Do I want to put a price on any of it? How?
All right, I want to have a wedding down there. How much?
Oh, weddings cost $2,500. You get it for the whole weekend, from like anytime Friday. Actually, you want to go down through Sunday. And what people do is they go down and they decorate the place,
Yeah.
like that little gazebo. If sometimes, obviously, people get married in a church and then they come there for the reception. But if they get married there, a lot of people, when they do it, they get married in that gazebo. They decorate that gazebo and get married there, and then have the reception in the, in the top floor of the lodge, and they decorate that too.
And if you want to stay overnight on the camp?
The lodge is, if you want to rent the top floor of the lodge, it's $200. If you want to rent the whole building, it's $275. The little cabins are $40, I think, a night. The bigger two, the Nature Center and the Girl Scout cabin, are $75. Yeah.
Well, Jim, you want to talk about Bob's idea of
Oh, yeah. Like we're using it for.
children's education?
Yeah. Bob wanted to, obviously we had to rent the place on weekends so that we could afford to fix it and keep it fixed. But he really wanted it to be a place where you could teach kids about natural science and that sort of thing. And I think lately that's beginning to happen. We have, last fall, for the first time, the kids from Pembroke, the 6th grade at Pembroke, came down to Denison every Thursday for a couple of hours. And we have a guy that we've been working with. He's a naturalist, and he sort of coordinates with the science teacher at Pembroke. And they, you know, they show kids, I don't even know what they show them actually, but it's part of the curriculum, the natural science curriculum at Pembroke. So they were there in the fall and the spring, and we're gonna keep it going. And also this guy that's the naturalist, he has kids that, for instance, you know, are homeschooled, and he brings them down there. Again, that same kind of thing. So lately, in the spring and the fall, we've had kids down there probably 3 or 4 days out of the week. Not the whole day, just a few hours at a time. So we are doing that, trying to, you know, use it for education. I mean, use it for something other than just rental. I mean, it's a great place to rent. My family and I, we had a party there last year. We're going to do it again this year. It's a great place.
And you probably covered it while I was in the kitchen, but you can launch a canoe or kayak?
Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, sure. You can put your canoe in the water. Yeah.
And
You know, the thing is that Camp Denison is public property, and you can go down there anytime you want and walk around, walk the trails.
so we don't have to seek permission? ahead,
No,
or-
no.
It's just-
The only thing that we would ask is 2 groups. First of all, if there's a wedding,
Oh, yes.
you know, we prefer people don't, you know,
Yeah.
kind of leave them alone. And we have groups that go down there and play act. It's called live action role play, and there's a lot of them. We make a lot of money from these guys. It's all young kids, well, young, you know, in their 20s and early 30s. And they dress up in medieval costumes and they play war games. And they do it at night.
They scare the hell out of
And
you.
they've scared the hell out of a few people, yeah. So, yeah, and we prefer people not bother them because they're in the middle of a game.
Yeah.
But other than that, a lot of people, not even people from Georgetown, but everywhere, walk their dogs out. There's always people down there walking dogs. I mean, we like people to put them on a leash because you don't want them going after people. But
So Jim, who would people contact to find out what's taking place and then maybe schedule something?
couple things. You want to contact Don Anderson, the camp manager. His phone number's right at the top of the website. There is a website, campdenison.com.
And is that linked off of our town website?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it is,
On
yeah.
their town's page.
And his number's right at the top. And on the front page, on the home page of that website, there's a calendar. And the calendar's really up to date. So you can look at it and you can tell if there's anybody there on a day you might want to rent it. And you can always call him. He's the one that coordinates renting.
So it's not an interactive calendar that you can put stuff in?
No, we're in the process of redoing it, of the website. And we're thinking we might try to do that, have people send him something that asks for a particular day. I don't think we would want to get into letting people book a day themselves, but we could have them send him an email so that you could request a date and he could tell you if you could have it. Yeah, we can do that, I think.
That was really a good decision for the town to purchase that.
Yeah, it was.
That's a real jewel.
I was looking ahead and.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have to admit, I was on the finance committee. That was my first town meeting on the finance committee, and I wasn't sure it was a good idea, to tell you the truth, because I was concerned about what it would cost. I figured it was going to cost a lot of money, and it hasn't. I mean, aside from CPC money, you know, it's all money that was raised with fundraising and with rents. We get $35,000 a year in rent to run the place. However, we're spending over $30,000 to run it. You know, there's electric bills and water bills and heat.
But you're breaking
And we have to, you know, buy equipment, you know, because we need to mow the lawns, and we have chainsaws, and we got ourselves an ATV from government surplus for $500, but we had to fix it. It probably cost us another $1,500 to put a transmission in it, but it's a great thing. You know, we take it all around and it carries stuff, and so you need things like that. It's 36 acres of property and a whole bunch of buildings. You know, it costs money to run it.
44 maybe.
It's 44 now, right? That's right.
So Jim, when is the open house this year, this summer?
September 15th. Yeah, we have two things that actually the Camp Denison committee runs the place. We have a meeting every second Tuesday night at Camp Denison. But there's also Friends of Camp Denison, and that's the fundraising group. And the Friends of Camp Denison are who runs the Family Day and the Easter egg hunt. And this Family Day, we're trying to get some local artists to have a show, because we don't have anything. You guys aren't coming down playing music anymore, so we're going to have a show of all local artists so that people can see who they are and maybe even buy stuff if they want to sell it. So we're trying to put that together for the 15th. That's it.
Does anybody else?
Oh.
One more question.
Gary has a question.
What I would like, you probably may not want to do it, but I know you've got a few of your volunteers here on the work crew.
That's right.
If maybe you could go up front with Jim as we close, so we have an idea of who you are, because the town, they do a great service for the town, and for a government to do something of this sort, you know, it takes the volunteers. I mean, because CPC money, yeah, they get some of that, but that's what it's meant for. But the rest of it, it doesn't come out of your town budget. I mean, they do this. And so
Yeah.
I know you may not want to do it, but perhaps you could. The rest of the volunteers and work crew that are here, maybe go up front with Jim so we might know who you are.
That would be Stu.
Stu, yeah, and Bob.
Bob.
That's it.
How big a crew do you have?
Who else? Actually, Chris Roop. I don't know if anybody knows Chris Roop.
Yeah.
George Langley.
George Langley, Jack Lowe Cicero.
Yeah.
This is Steve Pinto, Harry Nelson. Harry has lived in Georgetown for a while. He lives on Andover Street. But Harry was a manager of maintenance and upgrading at the Medford Housing Authority.
Oh, good.
So Harry really knows a lot about how to maintain buildings, and he's been terrific. Well, for instance, doing the roof, he went out and got a spec for us from how the Medford Housing Authority is, you know, a request for quote to go out to people for us to get quotes on for roofers.
Well,
So-
you've done a great job. I know you didn't have a picture. You built the barn.
Yeah, there's a barn there. That's
Barn,
right. Yeah,
and,
yeah.
But it can be a lot of fun if anybody.
Oh, I think it is. I think everybody that
audience-
does it enjoys doing it. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. If you have time and you like to do things like that, you know, come down. I mean, you don't have to make a commitment.
Yeah, just hang around.
You don't have to make a
Like I
commitment.
do.
You can show up when you want. You know, they do what they can with who's there.
Yeah.
Do a lot.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jim.
Okay,
Thank you so
you're welcome.
much. Really, that was wonderful.